Welcome to the Zweig Letter Podcast, putting architectural, engineering, planning, and environmental consulting experts straight talk in your ear. These podcasts deliver great interviews with industry leaders and Zweig Group's 3 decades of invaluable research, leadership, management, marketing, client, and HR advice directly to you, free of charge. The Zweig Letter Podcasts let you develop personally and professionally, wherever you are.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the Zweig Letter Podcast. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and I am here with you today just to talk a little bit about what I had a chance to do about a week ago, which was I got invited to Philadelphia to Podcast Movement, which is the largest podcasting program conference in the world, I think. There were several thousand people there, all kinds of great people like Terry Gross from NPR and Aaron Mahnke from Lore, Pat Flynn from Smart Passive Income, John Lee Dumas from Entrepreneur on Fire. Some really heavy hitters were there too, which was really interesting. And so I had a great time catching up with some amazing folks, and big shout out to Dan Franks and Jared Easley, the guys that put on this event each year. It's now in year 5, and I certainly think the best is yet to come. Voice and podcasting is going to continue to be huge. The reason why I wanted to talk with you today is just to share a little bit about my takeaway from the event that I actually got to speak at, which was I did a session on building corporate awareness for your podcast and trying to get consensus both internally as well as externally for your brand, for your organization, and why it's important to get the word out to as many people that will listen. And I had a chance to kind of walk through and kind of tell the story of the Zweig Letter Podcast, the one that you're listening to right now, and everything that has happened through the iterations of this podcast over the past, almost 3 years now, almost 150 episodes, and what it has taken to get to this point. And the vantage point that I have is that we had no preconceived notions about what was going to happen with this podcast. We just knew that we wanted to get the word out about Zweig Group in a different format than our traditional formats of website, email marketing, and things of that nature. But we wanted to try to extend the Zweig Group brand, the Zweig Letter brand, beyond the 4 walls of our building, beyond what people were currently aware of. And so I went out and sought out amazing CEOs, amazing designers, and other individuals in this space that are doing great things, and interviewed them. And basically, that's how it started. It wasn't a lot of back and forth with regard to, trying to determine what is going to be our message. The message was simple. It was to extend the brand of Zweig Group as far as possible to anyone that will listen, to get information that we have gleaned over almost 30 years of research and surveys and publications into as many people's hands as possible. And that's, I think, more than anything else for any company, whether it's Zweig Group or any other, is the benefit of doing a podcast, is being able to extend your brand beyond your normal reach, beyond where you can see with your eyes, beyond where you can reach with your hands. You can get your brand out to as many people as possible that will listen. So I spent 45 minutes with an amazing audience, walking them through the pros and cons of getting a podcast started for their corporation, for their organization. The challenge is that so many people do podcasting as a personal thing, as a business for themselves, as an individual, But there are so many reasons why companies should consider doing a podcast. And I've talked about this before, but I think it's one of those things that we really should take a closer look at again and figure out how can we create an opportunity to extend our brand beyond the four walls of our organization, beyond just even beyond just the reach of each individual in our company. Because the beauty of podcasting is that it goes everywhere. It's on everybody's phone that has an application, whether it's iTunes, whether it's the podcasting app, whether you fill in the blank, SoundCloud, it doesn't matter what it is, Spotify. People can get podcasts and have access to podcasting now more than ever before. So that's the beauty of the reach. You never know who you're going to reach out to. One of the great stories that I always tell about our podcast was the fact that I was sitting in a client's office in their boardroom in Iowa City, Iowa, of all places. And I had an individual come up to me right before the meeting started and said, "Hey, you're Randy, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I had never met this guy. And of course we were, about to make introductions, but he just went on to say, "Yeah, I was listening to you this morning." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then it dawned on me, he was talking about listening to me on the podcast during his morning run. And that kind of blew me away. Here I am about, an 8 or 9 hour drive, a 2-flight connection from Fayetteville, Arkansas, where we're based. And here's a gentleman telling me that he's listening to our podcast while he goes out and runs in Iowa City, Iowa. And I thought that was kind of cool. And that just tells me, and there are other countless stories like that of people that have been impacted by our podcast, that have listened to it, that have really taken the information in and shared it with other people. And that is really motivating for me because it means that actually people are listening and you never realize that people are listening. And that's one of the challenges with podcasting is that it's sometimes hard to discern an audience. But the thing is, if you describe your podcast properly, if you put good show notes out, if you share information and extend your reach from the podcasting perspective through social media, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, if you extend the brand of your corporation through the vehicle of the podcast that you create, you will be really surprised about the people that will actually listen to what you have to say. And so I just really want to encourage you today as you listen to this podcast to really think about putting something together that people want to listen to, creating really great information. With regard to podcasting, it's something that I know it's still new for a lot of people. Some people don't know what a podcast is, but so many more people do. And the statistics that are coming out now are amazing with regard to listenership and to the increased amount of people listening to podcasting on a regular basis. It's only going to grow with the advent of smart speakers like Amazon Alexa and Google Home. You are essentially going to have voice information available at your fingertips just by asking a question. I would venture to say, and I said this in the presentation, is that Amazon Alexa is going to get bigger than Google from a search perspective, because very soon it will be more natural for you to search by voice than it will be for you to go onto Google and type in words, so that you will go to Amazon Alexa and say, Alexa, look up every design firm in Houston, Texas, and please read off a list of those firms. Or Amazon or Alexa, look up every architectural firm in Los Angeles that does K through 12 education, and please read off those list of firms. It will be as simple as that. Now, granted, that's just a simple search string that I just made up on the fly. The bottom line is that that's kind of where it's going. There'll be a number of different ways for you to determine, information and to find out new pieces of information without you ever stopping what you're doing. You might be in the middle of something, but if you have one of these smart speakers in your office or at your home, you can ask, "Hey, Alexa, give me an update on the latest news in the design industry." Tell me all the great new architectural projects that are happening in my city, in my state, in my region. That's kind of where it's going. And so podcasting is going to dovetail into this whole voice movement, this whole smart speaker movement. And that's in my mind, one of the main reasons why you should consider starting a podcast is because you will be searchable in more places than just on Google. It will enhance your ability to, as we like to say, be everywhere in the internet. One of the benefits of trying to grow a brand, whether personal or whether a business brand, is that you want to try to be everywhere that you can be where you think your clients are. And don't make assumptions about where your clients are, because you just never know. And I really want to encourage you to think about this aspect of why you should start a podcast from a company perspective, why you should try to extend your brand. Now, the flip side of this, and this is something that I told the audience that I spoke to, was that you could also do an internal podcast. And I think that is really intriguing and interesting, because I think gone are the days of having a intranet. I mean, how many people actually look at your intranet on a regular basis? I want to see a show of hands. Well, actually, I can't see you raise your hand, but some of you are probably saying, yeah, you know what, Randy, you're right. We have an intranet. I haven't looked at it in 3 years. My point exactly. But I bet you would listen to a recording of somebody talking about the company, of the CEO or the COO or the chief marketing officer or the the head HR person talking about, what's happening now at the firm, or an HR person sharing out information on updated benefits programs for your company, or the chief marketing officer talking about the new branding techniques that you guys are employing to get the word out to extend the brand of your organization. If you talk about building brand ambassadors internally in your firm of each and every person, eat, sleeping, and drinking what you have to offer, one of the easiest ways to do that is through voice, is through sharing information of an audio format. So I would encourage you to think about even doing an internal podcast. And I know some of you are saying, well, wait, Randy, we don't want to share a lot of private information with the world. You don't have to. There are ways for you to create a private podcast that is only consumable by your employees. And I'll definitely put some information in the show notes about some potential options for you to consider when it comes to that. But I would encourage you to really seriously think about this. There are a lot of ways for you to extend your brand internally to strengthen and build up brand ambassadors at your firm, so that each and every person at your organization knows what's happening at all times. Based on how you share information. They know all the latest marketing initiatives. They know the best way to position the brand of your company and your organization to the outside world. And they just become better colleagues because people know more about what's going on in the company. And it affords you as a leader, if that's what you are, to have an opportunity to get feedback from people in reference to what can we be doing better? What are our areas of weakness? What are our areas of strength? So the podcasting piece of it serves multiple purposes. It can serve a great purpose from an external standpoint to extend your brand to the world. It can serve a great purpose internally to extend your brand on throughout the team. What if you have a bunch of freelance people that work with you and you want to have them understand the brand better? Then this is a great opportunity for you to do that as well. There are countless ways that you can extend your brand internally to help grow your team, to help create better brand ambassadors for your product and or service. And podcasting could be one way to do that. And I certainly want to make the presentation that I did at Podcast Movement 18 available to you for consumption. It's on SlideShare, but I will certainly make sure that we put it in the show notes so that you can check it out and let me know what your thoughts are. But if you have any questions about getting a podcast started, about the benefits or merits of a podcast, I'm more than happy to talk with you. At Zwei Group, we are doing some consulting with firms on how to get voice up and running in their organization. There are possibly a lot of things that you might be missing out on because you're not employing voice. And I'd be more than happy to talk with you to kind of brainstorm with you some ways that you could do that and how you could extend your brand. So look forward to sharing more with you. And if you have any questions, you can always reach me here at Zweig Group. All my contact information is in our show notes, and I would be more than happy to talk with you about it. Hey guys, listen up. This coming next few weeks, we are going to do a best of series from the Zweig Letter podcast. We're going to take a break as we retool for the fourth quarter of 2018 and put together some amazing interviews and some amazing podcast shows for this fall. We're going to take a couple of weeks off to take a hiatus, if you will, but the Zweig Letter podcast will continue. And what we're going to do to you over the next couple of weeks is bring you some of the best of the Zweig Letter podcast, several episodes that ranked really high with our listeners. And so I really want to encourage you to check out these episodes, some of which you might remember, some of which you may have never heard before, especially if you're a newer listener to the Zweig Letter podcast. But really want to encourage you to take part in that and check us out. And remember, if you like the podcast, do me a favor. Take a screenshot and throw it up on Twitter, hashtag Zweig Letter Podcast. Throw it up on Twitter and just leave a message and let me know what you think about the podcast, how it's impacted you, and maybe if it's giving you any ideas to help grow yourself, grow your brand, grow your company, to do some things in the design space that you never thought could be done. Whatever it is, I'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to share that information. Finally, I do want to offer you something that I always do, and that is a free digital subscription to the Zweig Letter. The Zweig Letter has run continuously since 1992. It is one of the longest running newsletters in the design industry space, and I really want to encourage you to get your own copy. You can get a copy for yourself. We can sign up your whole firm. It's very easy to do. You can also just reach out to me at rwilburn@zweiggroup.com, and I'll sign up your whole company today. It doesn't matter when. Email me and I'll take care of it. All I need is an Excel spreadsheet with a list of names and email addresses, and you're done. We will never spam you. We will never send you out a bunch of other unsolicited stuff. All we'll do is every Monday morning, you'll get fresh off the presses, the latest edition of the Zweig Letter newsletter, which is really amazing. And I got to say this, Mark Zweig writes a great article each week. It's very engaging. And actually everyone here in the office looks forward to Mark's latest rant on something in the design industry or some business practice gone awry. And so it's always good to hear from Mr. Zweig, and he's had a 38-year impression on this industry and has so much more to say than many of us that have only been around for a short period of time could ever say. And so certainly he qualifies when you use the expression, he has forgotten more than most people know about a particular topic, and that would be the design industry, the best practices, and the best way to run your business. Not run it into the ground, but run it into the sky. So I hope that makes sense. I really do appreciate you listening to this episode of the Zweig Letter podcast. Please, please, please rate us on iTunes. Check us out if you like it. If you like the podcast and it's impacting you and helping you, please take a screenshot of this podcast, share it out, share it with friends. Remember, sharing is caring, and I would really appreciate it if you would let folks know about this podcast. I'm Randy Wilburn, your host, and we exist not only to make you more successful, but we exist really to elevate this industry. That is the goal here at Zweig Group, and we're trying to do that by any legal means necessary, including this podcast. So thank you very much, and I hope you have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in to this Zweig Letter podcast episode. If you want more wisdom and inspiration, in addition to information about M&A, strategic planning, HR, and marketing your firm, subscribe now to the digital version of the Zweig Letter free of charge. Just visit thezweigletter.com/subscribe and leave your email address. Your free subscription will begin immediately.